Good morning. I know you've all had a very busy week as you track the final days of the legislative session. This work that happens in Helena has real impact on our communities across the state. Yesterday I heard firsthand while I was in Butte to highlight the impact of one of our high priority items, our pro-housing reforms that we passed last session. Increasing the supply of housing has been a top priority for our administration and for the legislature because owning a home is a key part of the American dream. But for more than a decade, it's become harder and harder for Montanans to own or rent a home. Burdensome regulations and population growth have left Montana with a shortage of affordable, attainable housing. We knew we had to face this problem head on. That's why in 2022, I launched our Housing Task Force. They developed a list of 12 recommendations the legislature could consider to make housing more affordable and more attainable. And last session, they did just that. In working with the legislature, we've made real progress. In 2023, I signed into law House Bill 819, which provided the Board of Investments with $106 million to implement our Home Ownership Means Economic Security, or HOMES Act. The HOMES program created a low-interest revolving loan account to help pay for some of the infrastructure costs that come with building new homes, extending water lines to new subdivisions or building roads, upgrading water and sewer systems. The Board of Investments tells me that the HOMES program, which we implemented just 2 years ago, has led to the construction of nearly 1,000 new homes across Montana. The best part? The HOMES program is not a handout. The money the state invests gets paid back to the HOMES program so that we can reinvest it in more homes. Yesterday, I visited with Barbara Miller, the Director of Habitat for Humanity of Southwest Montana, to hear about her involvement in the project in Butte. The project is a collaborative effort between Habitat for Humanity and the National Affordable Housing Network, made possible thanks to the support from local building suppliers, contractors, and volunteers, and of course, our HOMES program. According to Barbara, through the work of Habitat for Humanity, they have had more than 130 families in Butte help them build their own homes. It's essential that we come alongside community efforts, nonprofits, and housing developers to give them the flexibility and stability they need to make these investments. Barbara said the HOMES program does just that. That's why in my budget I proposed allocating an additional $100 million to this program to build even more houses across Montana. I'd like to thank Representative Mike Vinton for carrying our proposal in House Bill 505 and the House of Representatives for their overwhelmingly bipartisan support for this bill. House Bill 505 was heard in Senate Finance and Claims this week, and I urge the Senate to take action on this important proposal, to continue to work to expand the supply of affordable, attainable housing in Montana. Now, as our agenda continues to make its way through the legislature, I thought I'd take a moment today to highlight where we stand. In November, Montanans sent us here with a very clear mission. They gave us a to-do list. And here we go. They said they wanted us to work together to, first, reduce property taxes. Secondly, limit spending. Third, cut income taxes. Fourth, reform the judiciary. And finally, increase starting teacher pay. As we get down to the wire, the legislature is working hard to make progress on the to-do list that the people of Montana have given us. I understand they're getting close on our proposal to increase starting teacher pay. That would be one item on here. I was hoping we could check that off today, but I'm grateful that we're making progress. But the top priority on the list must remain property taxes. Montanans spoke loud and clear in the last election: property taxes are too high. Most people in this building, myself included, agree. Montanans deserve permanent, meaningful relief and property tax reform. I was glad to see my priority property tax bill make progress in Senate Taxation Committee yesterday. As I have the entire legislative session, I continue to urge the legislature to keep its focus on Montanans who live in their primary residence, the place that they call home, and not on those who only live here part of the year. Our homestead rate cut was a thoughtfully developed solution and a result of a diverse bipartisan effort. It cuts property taxes for primary homeowners, small businesses, and provides indirect relief for renters. I still think the homestead rate cut is the best proposal in front of the legislature. I am optimistic that they understand that addressing property taxes is at the top of our combined to-do list. But as I said a few weeks ago, we can't leave here without meaningful, permanent property tax reform. It's time to get it done, and we should. Montanans also expect us to enact a responsible budget, one that limits government spending and balances the budget. Our budget that we proposed, the Path to Security and Prosperity, does that. It kept spending growth under the rate of inflation without growing the size of government. But as our budget has made it through the legislative process, it's grown. While I respect the role of the legislature, I reiterate, we must pass a responsible budget in line with Montanans' priorities. And we cannot grow government at a rate faster than inflation. And we must complete more of the items on this list, like cutting income taxes. In November, I proposed the largest income tax cut in state history, building on past income tax cuts which have led to record job creation, record low unemployment, and record wage growth that outpaces inflation. I still believe our income tax cut is the most conservative proposal before the legislature, reducing the tax that most Montanans pay, benefiting Montanans at every single income level. While I know there's a lot of different ideas out there, we must keep this principle at the top of our minds. The money belongs to the people of Montana and not the government. We should send it back to them in the form of permanent tax relief. Montanans said they wanted judicial reform. I do too. Last year's Montana Supreme Court elections saw an influx of unprecedented dark money from the extreme left, proving we already have a partisan Supreme Court races here in the state. I believe Montanans have a right to know the values and principles of the Supreme Court justices they elect. There is still time to get this done, and we must. Montanans also want their children to get the best education possible, and they know in order for our students to reach their full, outstanding potential, we must be able to recruit the highest quality teachers. By raising teacher pay and investing in our schools, we're building brighter futures for our teachers and our students. That's why I'm grateful the STARS Act passed the Senate on second reading by a wide bipartisan margin. By raising starting teacher pay, we can ensure that students across our state, especially in our rural areas, benefit from a quality education. As I wrap things up today, I'd like to thank the legislature for their work. They are putting in long hours and considering many complex issues, but we're getting down to the wire. and a lot remains on Montana's to-do list. And I'm ready. I've got my little pen. I'm ready to check them off. Let's finish strong, building on the firm foundation from the last 4 years, and creating a Montana where every man, woman, and child can reach and achieve the American dream. With that, I'm happy to open up for questions. Just please state your name and news outlet when you do. Yes?
Governor, Micah Drew with the Daily Montanan. You say there's still time for judicial reform, specifically mentioning partisan elections. How do you see that coming about with only 2 weeks left?
We have 2 weeks left. And I was very clear in my state of the state. I think many in the legislature agree. We want to have a judiciary that stands on the rule of law and does not promote their own political views from the bench. And I think Montanans should be able to vote based on the affiliation of these judges. We have nonpartisan races in Montana in name only. We should call a spade and attribute them to the party from which they come.
Just to follow up that, is there anything working its way through, or are you working with any legislators to try to get a last minute bill through?
These are the items that Montanans gave us to achieve. Nothing's going to take it off the to-do list. It's still there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Blair Miller with Lean Newspapers. You talked about, how the budget's kind of coming in above where you had initially asked for. If that is kind of cruising through the Senate right now, if that comes to you in its current form, are you looking at more line item vetoes? Are we looking at cat and dog bills, so to speak, in terms of where you might see some cuts?
Yeah, I think Montanans have given us very clear marching orders, which is they want a responsible government. We're required by our Constitution, of course, for it to be balanced, but we have to make sure we don't grow the size of government faster than the rate of inflation. So we'll see what form the budget gets to us, but we're going to use the tools we have to make sure that we have responsible spending. Yeah.
Watching the action on Senate tax and tax law yesterday, one of the things that was done there, as I understand it, was adding a rebate provision, which looked to be an understanding that it's not possible at this point to implement the homestead provision this year. First, is that correct? And second, how are you feeling about a rebate provision that looks like tapping income tax dollars to provide a stop that part?
Yeah, so the question's about the rebate that got added to 231 in Senate yesterday. And our marching orders from the people of Montana are very clear. We need meaningful, permanent property tax relief. Now, if there was a rebate in a bill that provided a bridge, a one-time bridge to that permanent, meaningful property tax reform, we're not opposed to it. I wish we could have gotten it done this year, but we are where we are. Let's get a proposal that delivers that meaningful, permanent reform. And if there's a rebate in it that kind of bridges the gap, that's okay.
And to be clear, it sounds like you're accepting the premise that it's too late to implement a homestead provision this year.
We needed the bill by February 15th. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I was going to go to the Behavioral Health Commission's work over the last interim. I'm just wondering, I know that was a huge deal for legislature and your administration last session. Do you feel like the proposals that have made out of your 10 recommendations of the Commission's 22 has been as transformational as promised?
So the question's about the Behavioral Health Commission and the significant commitment we made in the last legislature to really reform the way we do behavioral health in the state, rebuilding our Montana State Hospital, as well as bringing back community-based behavioral health. I'm really pleased with the work the commission has done. I approve the 10 recommendations that they formulated. Again, it was a bipartisan group. We got experts involved. This is a big problem, and it's been broken in this state for a long time. So it's going to take a while for all of the expenditures that were allocated to actually come into full effect. But I'm pleased with the progress that's being made.
Do you have any ideas? This is C1 Lexington from Lean Newspapers, by the way. The money that is remaining from that $300 million allocation, do you have any ideas about where you'd like to see that money going forward?
Yeah, so the remaining money in the Behavioral Health Commission, I'm really relying on the commission to make recommendations. I think they've done, it's sort of like you know, as I always say, football games are won with 3 to 5 yard plays. We're running a bunch of plays now. You huddle back up once you do those, and you figure out what to do next. It's kind of a, we ought to look at what's working. We did this with our property taxes. We did this with our affordable housing. We put forward a number of proposals. We implemented them. We reviewed the success of them and then made subsequent recommendations. We're going to do the same thing in the behavioral health area. Yeah. Yes.
Teacher, Chris, again, back to housing. You mentioned your homes proposal, which is 5 years is moving. On the zoning reform side of that region, are there any bills that you support in concept, at least at this point in the session?
Yeah, so questions about other housing reforms in this session in addition to the Homes Act. As I recall, the affordability, the Housing Task Force made a series of additional recommendations. We're generally supportive of those, most of them, and I think a number of them are making it through the process. I'll look forward to getting them to my desk. Good. Yeah.
George Hanson, Data Montana.
I was just curious if there is any property tax bills that you likely wouldn't sign. I think some legislators, have said your office might not be in favor of rebates being the only option, kind of such as those sort of published nesting might be.
Yeah, so questions about property taxes and other versions of bills that are floating through the legislature. We've been pretty clear. We need permanent, meaningful relief. The other hard line that we've drawn is that we do not think we should take someone's income tax dollars and use it to backfill local spending. So that's something we will not do. Good? Yeah. You can have the last question.
I'll try to make it two-part if that's all right. So I think you're aware there's been a lot of consternation within your party about some Republican lawmakers who side with Democrats on certain votes. I'm wondering if you think that's a squandering the mandate from the election, or if you think accommodating and compromising with Democrats is a good idea or a fair idea.
Well,
and also, how does that apply to property taxes coming up? Do you think that's going to play a role?
Yeah, I think that every single person who is elected to the legislature is representing their constituents. I'm going to advocate for conservative solutions to these problems. Ultimately, I can't sign bills that don't get to me, but as I focused on today, this is the to-do list we think we've been given by the people of Montana. And honestly, I don't know that there's a lot of disagreement between either side of the aisle on these priorities. I know there's different views on how to do them, but we're going to continue to advocate for the things that we think will make meaningful, permanent difference for the people of Montana. There's one online?
We've got two online.
Okay.
Zeke, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thanks. This is Zeke Lloyd with Montana Free Press. I'm curious how you're feeling about Kastmeyer's, I think it's Senate Bill 321. Just generally curious about your thoughts on tax credits for children and parents with young kids.
You have to remind me what 321 is.
Giving tax credits for, is it parents with kids? Eric?
Yeah, okay. So there's still a lot of bills moving through the legislature, and I'll consider them when they get to me.
Governor, we also have Josh online.
Okay, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, good morning, Governor. Josh Margolis, NBC Montana. You might answer the same way you answered the last question, but I want to throw it out there. There's a bill that's getting pretty close to your desk that would repeal the 2-year ban on lobbying for public employees, former government personnel, allowing them to be lobbyists like right after they serve in the legislature. I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that, either philosophically or kind of when it comes to your desk, what you're going to do with it, or you want to hold your cards.
Yeah, I think we haven't seen the bill yet. We'll certainly have a chance to weigh in if it gets to me. So, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Governor.